Ryan Lietaer.
That's me.
Founder of Accomplice. Thank you so much for joining us. What does after work mean to you?
In a way, after work is a never, and it isn't that I'm always working in a traditional sense, but the mind, when you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business, it's always on. But I think that's one of the great gifts because it's not like a job you want to put away to be okay. It is part of a rich and healthy and positive life, and it's sort of like a little bit of my life force. And so after work is not a concept.
Let's talk about startups.
Yeah.
You have started 2 agencies now, so
Yeah.
People We Like and Accomplice.
Yes.
How on earth did you have the energy for 2 startups?
Well, and the third in there was community. And although it was for publicists, that was a job, but it didn't exist. And so you kind of go, once you start, that first step for People We Like was the scariest. I call that the long, dark corridor. And on that was, for me, a lot of preparing what level of failure I was willing to accept. And if I can just get halfway down the dark tunnel, it's like, okay, so it didn't completely fail. And as long as it's not a flop on my face, I'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, the reality is they all kind of connect. So if you look at the concept of People We Like, look at the concept of community, look at the concept of Accomplice, there's some real connectivity to all 3 of them, which is they're all about a sense of, humanity, community, I guess, a little bit, right? And these are values that are really important to me. Once you it comes out of the box, you can't put it away. Once you work from an empowered standpoint where you're accountable and you're responsible, then that becomes something that's a non-negotiable for your life. And for me, the opportunity to create something out of nothing is the purest form of creativity and imagination and empowerment. And it's all about freedom. And so once we did People We Like, and that was, I was in France, I was with a French business partner, I'm Canadian, Anglo-speaking, pretty good at French, but by no means am I Parisian. We made a real business there. And I just thought, well, if you can make that level of success in an environment that's quite hard, where your supply lines of support and friendship are quite far away, well, then you can kind of make it anywhere. I've never looked back, and I'd never be able to work for anybody again.
I agree with you. I think once you've been your own boss, it's really hard to go back. But you did do it.
Yeah.
So when you did Community, that
Yeah.
was actually a Publicist Group company, right?
Yeah,
So you did
yeah.
have to answer to
Yeah.
the powers of be. How did that feel?
Constrictive, right? And what you realize is the limitations we placed on ourselves. When you're your own business person, they're all in your mind and you can solve for them. But when they're organizational and you're part of someone else's strategy, even if it's your own patch of land, there's freedoms and constraints. Things are moving so quickly. I think the marketplace is so competitive. If you're carrying around other people's constraints other than go win, it's kind of a frustrating experience.
I agree with you. I've realised about myself, and my team outside will back me up on this, how impatient I am now, because everything moves so fast that if I was constrained by approvals or red tape, I'd find it really frustrating.
Yeah, I think in big companies, who's making the decisions and what are the strategic decisions being made often aren't aligned with what you have to do. So I love our side of the business, which is I have to solve problems for clients. That's my master. And as soon as it isn't in scope for complete freedom, then I can't do my job as well as the best person who could be doing that job.
Got you.
So often being part of a bigger multinational specifically, you're not able to do the job as well as you could because there's constraints that shouldn't be there. And that's not a place I can exist in. Right?
On the flip side, it probably does give you access to people you can pull on to help make some of the decisions or to give a different insight.
I think that's part of what would be nice if it was true. It hasn't been my experience. The only experience I've had where that is true is in a privately held company like a Wyden and Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
I think you look at where are the best talents lying, and more kind of not in big public companies, right? Do they have their share? Yes. But the access to resource, i.e. human capital, isn't there. And what I find actually is human capital want to be around free radical organizations and ideas like the ones that you're building, like the ones that we're building. That's where the best talent wants to go, because that's where the most ambitious people are. That's where the most ambitious clients are. And so on the creative end of the agency spectrum, which is where we're building a business, I think one thing that's been proven is the industrial scale version of that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because it's expensive, it's inefficient, right? And it's finicky.
So do you see Accomplice, I mean, it's hard to say always staying independent because who knows what's going to happen in 5 years' time, but is that the plan?
Yeah, definitely. You know, Mark and I want to build a great business. More than our fair share of the best people can come, build a career, right? Earn a better than market paycheck, a long-term build, hold, nurture, become chairman of, earn a dividend, and bring in a new management team. And I think that's a wonderful thing, and that's a legacy. So Accomplice is here to stay.
It's really refreshing to hear that, because most people who do startups, the ambition is to sell in 5 years' time. Yeah. And it's really refreshing when you think, oh, that's not my ambition. My ambition actually is to create a very happy, successful work environment where I can bring my team up so that one day they could own the business.
That's the thing that would make me most proud. And, you know, again, I go back to being an owner. It's different. It's about control, and there's a freedom that comes with that control. And as soon as you sell, I have nothing against people who leave with tens of millions of pounds in their pocket. Brilliant. Then they become an employee again. I get way more utility and happiness and joy of life building and being an owner, right? And creating a place for other people where they can kind of become who they are and thrive and be an owner as well. So that would be much more value to me if we could build something where everybody wins rather than Mark and I have an exit. And then what do? Then we're still young men and we create something from scratch again. I'd rather continue to make this thing great.
And you love it. Why would you want to leave?
And we love it. It's total life force.
After your 3 startups, there must have been some brilliant learnings. What advice would you have for someone thinking about starting up an agency?
So the biggest lesson I learned, and it's something I've done completely different at Accomplice as when I did People We Like, which is finance. So we're a creatively driven organization, right? And so you think, what's the most important thing? The creative work, right? The work. And that isn't untrue. But it was funny, Mark and I decided we were going to launch Accomplice. And I told him the most important thing we will do is have a strong financial organization. So we hired a CFO and a financial controller as employees 2 and 3.
I thought you were going to say choosing the right co-founder.
Well, my answer wasn't not that that's important.
It's more finances first, though. You launched Accomplice in London in lockdown. Why?
Born in lockdown. Yeah, well, that was a little bit of an amazing opportunity. So Publicis were doing a strategic reorganization. They decided that community wasn't going to be one of the global brands. The opportunity presented itself, which was, can we take it private? To take everything that we had built with us as we wanted to do our own company called Accomplice.
Why did you change the name?
It was always Mark and I. And so for Mark and I, it was an opportunity to sort of codify what we always were for our clients, which was their accomplice. And you know, the whole meaning for our business is that every great ambition needs an accomplice, right? Every client that seriously wants to put a ding in the universe and to kind of change the world, you need an accomplice. You don't get there on your own.
So back at Wyden's Amsterdam, you ran Coca-Cola globally. It's an admired brand. We all love it. We all know the adverts. So tell me a bit about Coca-Cola.
That was a life-changing experience. The world's best creative agency times one of the world's most important marketers. You put them together and what could possibly go wrong, you know? But when a company like Coca-Cola says, we need to revive this brand globally, right? And you're part of Neville Isdale's charge to kind of reformat and reorganize the company, it was the biggest privilege I've ever had. Your launch campaign work is prime time US business focus, you know, and you're watching share price move because of confidence in the Coca-Cola organization. And so that, for me, gave me just such an immense respect for the power of strategy, of creative, of brand, right? It's not a rounding error. It is how companies, when they go to market well, it is everything.
Yeah.
And so it was just such an amazing ride, spending 5 years being part of what became sort of one of the case studies of the decade, right? Open happiness. But it taught me, I think, a reverence for what is possible when you do this job right, at the right level. That's kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Do you think creativity through chaos is something you'll take into the culture of Accomplice?
Well, that's a great question, because you and I both know, I think Dan and what they worked very hard on is chaos needs to be in the creative department, because that's where unexpectedness comes, and everywhere else it should run like a Swiss train station.
Definitely didn't though, did it?
No. God, it was chaos upon chaos upon chaos. And somehow it worked and the wheels didn't fall off. I think for Mark and I, we wouldn't characterize it as chaos. We talk a lot about not knowing, not knowing the answer, being committed to not knowing until we have to know, right? So that's about exploration and curiosity. So I think the world is screaming out for bold, ambitious, proud, high self-esteem agencies to kind of lead the way again.
Finish the sentence. If I wasn't in advertising, I would be a...
dog. Best animals ever. It's just pure love.
Oh, that's so
I'm
nice.
too soft.
What is the best piece of advice you can give someone about to start their career in advertising?
Be fearless. The world needs you to not be cautious or afraid, but just get out there and live in full color and just have an impact, The world needs big personalities in every part of the business, but have no fear.
That's it, you guys. We did it.
I like your cards.
That's what everyone says. Little bit of sticky tape.
I want little
Look at
cards
us.
like that.